evening, everyone. Hey, welcome. How you doing, Emma?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I have a little bit of a sore throat and I feel like I might be getting a cold, but
Oh no,
I'm okay.
so cold.
I've taken lots of vitamin C. It's freezing.
Freezing. It's like six. I just turned the heater on in here. It's like 16 degrees, it says.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
cold for being inside.
yeah. You look very nice, Meg. Have you been doing something fancy today?
I just went to work.
Well,
That's all.
you look lovely. Well
Hello,
done. Well done for going
everyone.
to work and looking lovely. Hey, hey. All right. Okay, let's just wait for a few more people and then I won't have to repeat myself.
Hi, Katie. Hi.
Emily. Hi.
Hey, just adjusting my camera. It's all good
No
now.
worries. All good. Hey, Andrea. Matt's
Hi, Katie. Hi, everyone.
Hi, welcome. Hey, Matt.
Hello.
All right. I'm hesitant to begin because I feel like more people are going to join and then I'll just have to say it all again. Let me just wait 1 more minute. I also want to do a couple of things this evening with breakout groups, and I'm waiting for a couple more people to join us so that we can make the breakout group thing work. Okay. All right, we'll start and we'll see how we go. So, welcome everyone to our second Zoom session. Thank you for joining me, those of you who are live. This evening, we're going to focus on the idea of theming, which I think is something we've touched on quite a bit already, but I want to kind of get a bit more specific about it. The restorative practice really lends itself to a lot of diversity in terms of how you want to theme. So it gives you a really fantastic opportunity to be able to, as a teacher, share with your students your own, personal areas of passion and interest. Now, as you've obviously gathered, for me, a lot of that comes to the subtle anatomy side of things. So I'm really interested in using restorative practice as an opportunity to explore and guide students in the direction of the subtle anatomy investigation. But before we go into that, because that is largely what we'll focus on this evening, I do just want to kind of caveat it by saying you don't have to have as much of a focus on subtle anatomy as I do. Like, for example, you may like to use a restorative yoga class as an opportunity to talk about yoga philosophy. And there's no reason why you couldn't do that. You know, you could have your students in different restorative postures and you could use that time to talk about Patanjali's Yoga Sutra or Bhagavad Gita or some other element of, yoga philosophy. In fact, I think you could do a really lovely restorative yoga series focusing on, for example, the yamas and the niyamas. And you could make that really rich. You could, for example, read some extracts from Patanjali. You could even read some of the sort of analysis from different teachers. You could read some poetry. I mean, there's so much scope. I feel like often in a regular yoga asana class, we might have a lot we want to share, but we're challenged, particularly if it's vinyasa, with the amount of time that we have to be able to share, because like we're moving through a flow, so you've got to keep talking in that regard. Whereas with restorative, you get the opportunity to talk for a little bit longer. So there's a lot of richness that can come from that. And I really hope at the end of this training that you will feel a sense of being able to make it your own and use the restorative practice in your own practice, but also in your teaching, if you're a teacher, as a way to explore, whatever it is that you're really passionate about. I mean, you could teach about Ayurveda during restorative practice. There's so many possibilities. So with that said, we're going to continue on our track of subtle anatomy. And I do feel that subtle anatomy particularly lends itself to the restorative practice, because when we're in restorative postures, in restorative asana, there's this beautiful opportunity to explore the pranamaya kosha. Like it's so available to us. And probably for most of us, we don't make very much time in our everyday lives or in other times in our lives to do that exploration. We've talked so much already about how underrepresented the pranamaya kosha is in our understanding of the body, in our culture, even in sort of like alternative wellness spaces. So it's a very special, I think, opportunity to explore that. So in your workbook, I have given you a few different sections of notes, which in all honesty are notes from my own notebooks and my own teaching resources and notes around different themes that I have taught restorative practice oriented around in the past. Now, we've already covered different types of prana, and I would definitely say that you could theme a restorative practice around one or more of the different types of prana. That's a brilliant, beautiful theme. And, again, I hope that you come away from this training feeling like, oh my goodness, I've got so much material. There's so many, I could teach a restorative class every week for a year and I still wouldn't run out of things that I could talk about and focus on. Another example, which we're going to look at either next week or the week after, depending on what way round we do it, is the chakras. So you could do a 7-week series, each week focus on a different chakra. And then also the different ways that the mind functions is another whole theme that we're going to look at. Next week, week 3 and week 4 of our Zoom class, we'll do the chakras for one and we'll do the mind for another. I'm just not sure yet which order I want to do them in, but that's what we're going to look at. So again, that's another, you could do a whole course on that, a restorative course on the chakras or a restorative course on the mind and the different ways in which yoga philosophy looks at the mind. What we're going to do tonight are more like little kind of standalone classes that you could draw from. And these are very much my personal inspirations, ideas, and I want to just give you a taste for how you could play with those yourself. And by all means, feel free to use my themes and my ideas. I'm more than happy for you to do that. That's why I've given them to you in the workbook. But I also want you to feel that you've got artistic license to do whatever you want to do. It's a bit like cooking, right? Like I could give you a recipe and I could say, here's a recipe for vegetarian spaghetti bolognese, and I could give it to you exactly step by step, and then you follow it and we all have the same spaghetti bolognese at the end. Or I could say, these are the different types of pasta you could use. These are the different ways to make, a red sauce. You might like oregano, you might like salt, you might like fake meat, you might prefer to use veggies. Like there's so much variety within still vegetarian spaghetti bolognese. So here we are, restorative yoga, but I don't want you to feel like there's only one way or one formula or you have to do it exactly my way. You make your own spaghetti bolognese and do it how you like it. And the only way that you'll find your mojo, like the way that you like to do it, is through experimentation. And I'll tell you honestly, many times over the years, I've been experimental in my yoga teaching and felt like it didn't quite work. Like I've taught many classes where I've gone, that was a bit weird. or I didn't quite articulate myself the way I wanted to, or whatever, it just didn't quite land. And that's okay, right? You've got to be in it to win it. We show up, we come with the best of intentions, we have a go, and then other times, I've taught classes that I hadn't really thought that much about, or I haven't planned that carefully. I mean, I always have some sort of plan, and they've just been brilliant. They've just really landed. I've just been, on top form, and I feel like I really got it through. And even maybe during the class had a bit of a download that I was able to share in that moment. So it's not an exact science. You can't control it. You're not going to always get it perfect, and it's okay. We're human. It's not a performance. This is the thing to remember. Teaching yoga is not it's not like you're on a stage offering a performance. You're having a genuine human experience, which means it's a dialogue. And whatever you bring to your students, they are also bringing their own stuff. So it's a dance between whatever you're offering and whatever stuff they're bringing in. So with that said, we're going to play with some of my templates or my ideas this evening. And my hope is that as you're doing this, you're kind of like, oh yeah, and there's that thing that person said that I could bring in, or oh, there's that brilliant, beautiful quote, or there's that poem, or there's that teaching from that other teacher that I just read about last week that would fit here. And you can kind of weave your own spaghetti bolognese. That's what we're trying to do here. So what I want to do, rather than me just kind of go through them, which will be, boring, and they're in the workbook anyway, I'm going to put you in breakout groups. I'm going to give each group a different little mini theme to look at. I'll invite you to read it in your group, and then to have a conversation, a discussion around what might it look like to share this particular theme or this particular idea in a restorative yoga class. So we're not focusing today on the asana. I'm not interested in the sequence or what postures you choose or the physical element. We're talking about that a lot more in our in-person gatherings because we've got bodies in front of us and we can actually physically be present with each other. This is more about your theming and your spiritual teachings or your subtle body teachings or what you're going to be talking about while the students are in their asana. I do invite you to think about things like spoken word, which I think is beautiful to include, whether it's you reading or even recordings of other people. I invite you to think about music, what kind of music you might use, and how you might bring these teachings in, and also totally open to you not really getting it, not really feeling that it fits, and sort of like saying, actually, this bit wouldn't be for me, and that's completely fine too. So I've got 6 different little mini themes. How many are we here with? 13. So I can do pairs and then one group of 3. And if anyone else comes along, they'll appear in one of your groups. Does that sound okay? Great. So I'm going to put you in your breakout groups. It's going to take me a moment to come through to each group and tell you what your little theme is. So just if I'll put you in your group and just hold tight because I've got to go through each group and give each one of you a different theme. Then after you've had your time together, I'll invite you to come back. You'll get, we'll come back together, and then I'll invite you to present your ideas. I'll probably get you to read your little extracts so everyone knows the context, and I'll invite you to share whatever conversation ideas, key points, takeaways you got from that theme idea with the whole group. Does that make sense to everyone? We all know what we're doing. Okay, brilliant. You're gonna get randomly assigned with your buddies. So I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to come find you and tell you what your focus is. You'll need your workbook in front of you if you don't already have it. So let me remember how to do breakout groups. I haven't done it for a while. Here we go.
Okay. Oh, she's asking that. No,
What's happening? Sorry.
that's all right. I just wanted to look at the messages on here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. So, unless
So
you,
that's asking me how long will they have in the group? But what's our thing?
I'm just looking. No idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, can you go back into the other room? Or do we have to leave it? Yeah,
We might have to
ask for help. Yeah, there's ask for help. Here we go,
Oh.
breakout room.
I'll type if I can find. I'll see. I can. No, I can only find you. Or have to type in everyone.
I'm just going to change positions. Yeah. Oh, while I'm doing this, try and get comfortable. Oh dear. There we go. Somewhere.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi.
So you guys are on page 15.
Yep.
And you are feet grounding and the geometry of being.
Okay.
So we could read it together and then have some conversation around how you might bring these teachings into restorative practice as teachers holding space.
Okay.
Okay.
Feet.
And you've got about 10 minutes. I'll bring you back into the main group in about 10 minutes.
Can you just repeat that? Did you say feet grounding?
And the geometry of being, page 15.
Page 15. Okay, thank you.
Okay, got it.
Yep, thanks, Katie. All right. Let me just find page 15. Yeah, I'm just trying to get comfortable with the find somewhere to put I've got it on my phone. How's that? Is that all right? How's that? All right. I'm comfortable now. Sorry.
You're comfy there?
Yep. Good. I've got my book. I've got my highlighter. I've got my crystals. Everything. Okay. 15. That's the only part I hadn't highlighted anything. Do you want to read it through it together? Do you want me to go first?
Yep, you go for the first paragraph. I'll go.
All right. So feet grounding in the geometry of being. The feet are the foundation of the temple of your body. When we place our feet with awareness along the midline, we align the Shushumna Nadi and orient ourselves toward the center.
Kim,
Oh, sorry, I've joined on here.
that's okay. We're in breakout groups.
Yeah, I'm already in one. I just
Are
joined.
you in two places at the
Yeah, I
same
signed up on my iPad as well. I'll leave it because I just was going to ask you a question, but you came to us to tell us what we were doing.
Okay, so
So
do you want to
I'll leave this room and just stay on my phone.
fabulous. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, it's okay. Okay, fabulous. You've all come back in. That's great.
Hello.
Alrighty, so let's go through. Starting with feminine embodiment and the inner temple. Who is that group?
Me.
Great. Okay. I'm handing over to you guys. Maybe one of you can actually just read the little extract for us, and then one of you can deliver your key takeaways.
I'll read if you
Thank
want.
you, Jo.
Feminine embodiment and the inner temple. Take a moment to check in with your body. How soft and relaxed do you feel right now in your belly? How naturally sensual are you feeling in this moment? If the answer is not very, it may be time to create some no demand time, a period of spaciousness where nothing is required of you. Surround yourself with beauty and pleasure. Fill up your feminine energy so that you don't become just a walking head disconnected from your body and its innate wisdom. You can support this process through the grace model. Gather attention, recall intention, attune to yourself, consider what will serve, and finally enact. This practice leads us into a deeper alignment and supports the cultivation of subtle awareness.
Beautiful. I'm just going to ask everybody who's not speaking to go on mute, just because it creates a little bit of background noise if we have a lot of people off mute. But if you're in the group that's speaking, by all means, be off mute. So tell us, what did you guys get from this?
We got that, yes, the three of us agreed that we could definitely bring it into a practice. It would depend on a couple of things. So maybe the time of day, the day of the week. So early in the week, maybe when energy is a bit higher, it wouldn't maybe sit or land so well with a class. But as a week goes on and into the evening, a little bit later in an evening class, it might be quite lovely just as an anchoring. For me, it sort of talks to being anchored and coming home to yourself. That's what I got out of it. But I won't hog the mic. I'll let the ladies, I'll let Rosie and Andrea talk to it as well.
Well, I'll go first then. When I read for the first time, I thought, oh, I'm not sure if it's something that I would be doing or not, or if I would prefer other topics. But then as we start discussing, then I said, oh, yeah, I think it's something that I would do it. And then I mentioned about doing in evening classes or like through the end of the week. Maybe then Joan say on the weekends, on Sundays as well, that you feel more relaxed. Yeah, I think that's it from me.
Rosie, did you want to add anything?
I mean, they're both pretty much now what we were talking about, but yeah, I think that just, yeah, like I guess maybe also a balancing kind of opportunity. If masculine is too much, we need to balance, and yeah, maybe using pranayama like Ida to balance, and also yeah, more receiving and that creativity kind of maybe in line with moon cycles and things like that. So yeah.
Beautiful. I would say that alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana, would go really nicely with this teaching because of what Rosie just said, which is the masculine feminine balance. And you know, the truth is that most of us, regardless of whether we're in a male body or a female body, are in the masculine more than we're in the feminine. Our culture very much lends itself towards being in the mode or the energy of Pingala. So yeah, coming into that feminine embodiment. And you know, the thing is with these teachings, we don't even need to necessarily use those words, right? So I've called it feminine embodiment, but you could literally just be talking about checking in with the body, noticing how you're feeling, like noticing where there's tension, where there's softness. Can you invite softness into an area that is tense, without using any of the languaging around feminine, masculine? And then I absolutely love the grace model. It comes from one of my teachers, Elena Brower. And this is a brilliant, brilliant model for teaching yoga in any capacity. So first, and you, again, you don't need to explicitly tell your students, right, we're going to work through the grace model. I mean, you could, but you could also just start by inviting a gathering of attention, right? So let's say you're beginning a yoga class, and this could be restorative or it could be any practice. It could be your personal practice or it could be you teaching. First thing you're going to do is get present. That's gather attention, right? You just notice, where am I at? How am I feeling? What's going on? Am I distracted? Am I present? What do I need to facilitate being able to give myself this time? Second, recall intention. Why am I here? Why have I come to this yoga class? Why have I rolled out my mat? What is it that I want to achieve? And that could be very variable. You know, some days it might be an intention of energizing, an intention of building strength, an intention of working towards a particular maha asana, like a particular pose that you have in mind that you want to work towards. There's so many different intentions, but what is the purpose of the practice? And then attune yourself. That's a little bit more abstract, but basically what it means is ask the question, where am I at in all of this? So let's say your intention is, I want to work towards headstand in this practice, but where you're at is that you, I don't know, just started your period, or you have a headache, or you're feeling particularly overwhelmed. Maybe today's not the day for that intention. So we ask the question, okay, I've come in with an agenda, and now does this agenda actually suit what's happening right now? And as teachers, this is critical, because so often you will, especially if you're less experienced as a teacher, you'll come in to teach with a plan, right? You've got your agenda, you've gathered the attention, you've got your plan. But when you actually attune, and then this next one, which is consider what will serve, it's completely obvious that whatever you've planned is not the right thing, right? Maybe you're teaching a group of beginners and you've planned something, you can see it's way too complicated. Okay, you need to scale it right back. You need to really simplify. Maybe you've planned to do something, I mean, could be very practical, that involves lots of props, and then there aren't enough props. So you have to modify. Like, you know, we've got to be responsive to what's happening in the moment. And this is one of the reasons, and those of you who've just done teacher training with me know this, it's one of the reasons I'm very much not a fan of teaching with a lot of demonstration. If you're in the front of the room and you're kind of doing your own practice along with your students, and they're just copying you and following you, I mean, there's actually lots of things I think personally that's wrong with that. But one of the things that's wrong with that is you're unable to actually look at what everybody is doing and therefore be responsive. Right? You want to be looking, you want to be engaged. Like, are people following you? Are they actually understanding the instructions you're giving? Is there an alignment happening here, or is there like a mismatch? Something's not quite registering or not quite fitting. So that's consider what will serve. And we just have to be adaptable. We have to be willing to pivot in the moment and then enact. That means, you know, do whatever it is that needs to be done in that moment. So this grace model is really helpful in our yoga practice, our personal practice. It's really helpful as a teaching model. And Elena would say it's also really helpful as a life kind of tool. You know, like whenever you find yourself in a sticky situation of any kind, you can go through this process in order to make a good decision about what to do next. It's really powerful. In fact, actually, one of the ways I've heard her teach this, because Elena works a lot with people. She works in hospice environments. She works a lot with people who are dying, leaving their bodies. And she uses this model often to support the moment of someone passing away and leaving their body. Like, how can I be responsive in this moment to what this person needs specifically now without my own agenda or my own plan? You know, it's such a beautiful way of present moment attention. I've also used this model often in parenting. Really, really helpful when you're dealing with a kid or a, you know, young adult who's not happy about something. You just trying to figure it out, you know, like you really get present, you see what's available, you see what's going on, you consider what is going to be of service, and then you take action. Any questions about that? Okay, beautiful. Thank you, guys. Inner Shrine. This is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorite pieces of scripture ever in the yogic repertoire. I just think it's so beautiful.
Well, I hope I don't ruin it then.
Of course you won't. Of course you won't. So this, just to tell you guys what I told the group, this is a direct translation of a Sanskrit extract of Upanishad, which is scripture that is at least 2,000, maybe more than 2,000 years old. So it's a direct piece of Sanskrit scripture that's been translated.
So Bryony and I were together. Is it okay if I read it, Bryony? Because you had a lot
Of course.
and were so excited. I feel like you should give all the ideas.
Okay, you go.
Okay, so the inner shrine. In the center of the castle of Brahman, our own body, there is a small shrine in the form of a lotus flower, and within can be found a small space. We should find who dwells there, and we should want to know him. If someone were to ask, who is it that dwells in the center of the castle of Brahman in the form of a lotus flower, we can answer, the little space within the heart is as great as the universe. The heaven and earth are there, the sun, the moon, the stars, fire, lightning, and wind. For the whole universe is in him, and he dwells within our hearts.
So, Katie, we went with I really hope we haven't butchered this now, sorry. But we went with the theme of the heart chakra, and we based the theming of the class around the kind of opening and connecting with the heart chakra to essentially hear our truth, or to invite our students to hear, see, touch their truth. So that was kind of our theme, and the way that we thought about that, bringing that theme in, was we thought about during the centering, doing the piece with the invitation to palms up, have the essential oils with geranium, I think you'd said, that opens the heart. So using essential oils that open the heart, in the centering, move through a calling to kind of visualize the heart center, maybe the green light there. So really just the opening of that area. So just drawing the attention to the opening of the heart chakra. We thought we would do the reading maybe in Supta Baddha Konasana or something similar where the heart's open. So we thought that would be a good time to do the reading. We thought about maybe music. There's so much music that we could find that was kind of restorative heart chakra related music, and maybe the chant Yam during the free movement might be a nice piece of music to, again, focusing on the heart center. And then we thought maybe we could do a little meditation, which was sort of visualizing the placing of a lotus flower at the heart, and, you know, just kind of invite that connection there. And then maybe towards the end of the class, invite people to really listen to what whispers or what truth they might hear from their heart center, and kind of recognize that connection to something greater than self that exists there. That's kind of what we're thinking about. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Why were you concerned that you may have butchered it? That's perfect.
Well, when you read something for the first time and you think, oh gosh, because is this the right take on something that's obviously so old and revered? So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really, really beautiful. And I love that you've made the connection both with the physical body and with the chakras, with the energy body as well. I think yeah, absolutely gorgeous. There's so many different directions you can go with this little piece of scripture, and I have taught classes using this many times over with different focuses. Yes, heart chakra is a great one, definitely. I think we can also talk about this idea that the divine, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, is within us. So it's that idea that, we contain God in our hearts, and just the imagery of that being in the center of the castle in the form of a lotus flower. I just think what a gorgeous image that is. And then this idea that we contain within us the whole universe. There's something about that I find so interesting. And so much of the subtle anatomy imagery that we see from like the really ancient stuff, whether it's on temple walls or, some of the really old, like even before they had paper, where they were kind of drawing on like leaves and things like that, where we get these pictures that show the prana nadis and all those kind of imagery, will often show sun, moon, stars, universe in the body, like actually show. I mean, think about Ida and Pingala. It's the sun and the moon, right? So it's this idea that everything vast, the whole cosmos, is within us, which I personally find that very beautiful. I also really, really like this piece of scripture because it's not religious to a specific religion. So I feel like it's a rare, sort of quite esoteric, quite yogic scripture, but it's not like a Christian could read that and be quite comfortable and enjoy it. It's like it doesn't talk about Krishna or something very sort of Hindu. I mean, Brahman is a Hindu word, but actually, really, Brahman just means God, and it means the universal kind of overarching God. So you could happily, easily replace the word Brahman with God or with source or with universal energy. Like you could definitely interchange that word if you wanted to use this quote and make it less Hindu. Um, I'm intrigued. I'm curious to ask, be honest now, how many of you would feel comfortable to read that when you're teaching in a class? Raise your hand if yes, you would feel comfortable. Yeah, most of you. Most of you. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's definitely, it's quite strong yogic philosophy. Like, I think it would be totally fine to also not feel comfortable if it felt like it was a bit much. This is definitely one that's more pushing the boundaries of the esoteric. But I just think it's so beautiful. It's so poetic. Thank you. Yeah, Megs.
Just in terms of, I've noticed that heaven is used a lot. Is there another word for that?
Yeah, I mean, because it's interesting, right? We're reading a translation. So that word heaven would actually be something like nirvana, or could even be something like samadhi, which means same as the highest. So we could say, where is it? Let me see. The heaven and the earth are there. Yeah, we could say, well, you could even, if you really wanted to simplify it, you could say the sky and the earth, because often this idea of what is above and what is below in Sanskrit, it's like the sky and the earth are used a lot. So I think that with a bit of poetic license, you could definitely say that. But you could also say something like, the realm of the divine, or something like that, like or the energy of beauty, like you could use a poetic. See, this is a beautiful thing about Sanskrit translation. We get to actually also do our own variation on the translation, because heaven is a Christian, a Judeo-Christian concept. There's no heaven word in Sanskrit. So I'd be interested to know what the original word is there, which actually I don't know. But I dare say the person that did the translation of this had a bit of a Christian flavor.
And it's
If
okay.
they've chosen that word. Pardon?
Okay for us to change things up.
Why not? Why not? It's a translation. I mean, to a point, like if you're changing it to the point where it no longer resembles the original meaning, then I mean, I still think it's okay to do that personally, but then I would say this is my own interpretation. I wouldn't offer it as a quote or a translation, but why not go to the original source and play around with, like I just said with the word Brahman, play around with what other words you might use for that that mean the same thing, that don't necessarily have the same cultural association.
Yeah,
I think it's perfectly okay to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. You can really see it if you compare a few translations. Like, for example, if you have a favorite shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, or you have a favorite one of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra or something like that, and then you do a bit of a deep dive with Google, and these days probably with ChatGPT as well, you get a few different translations, you'll be amazed at how variable the translations are, like really surprising. And it's because translation is in the eye of the translator. Like, we cannot help but bring our own personal, even without knowing that we're doing it, our own personal flavor and bias. So it's actually very interesting to do that, to compare translations and then to kind of settle on one, or settle on words that feel good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great question. Anyone else want to comment on this particular theme? Okay, beautiful. So now we are pulse, presence, and inner temple.
So, I'll read that.
Thank you.
So, what is the subtle dance between your cardiac rhythm and your respiratory rhythm? There's a mysterious synchronicity here, a biorhythmic conversation that reveals the wisdom of your inner sanctum. Abiding in your own temple sanctuary, you are invited to enter the stream of breath and make an offering of your jaw, your spine, your pulse. Let the back of the skull ascend and the jaw gently descend. Allow the body to realign from the inside out, beginning at the feet and rising through the crown, a progressive journey of the subtle embodiment. Place your awareness at your wrist or at the base of your thumb. Feel your pulse. Wait, watch, listen. This is a holy moment. The ancient Christian mystics spoke of the quickening of the spirit, a felt sense of prana, or life force, awakening from within. Similarly, in subtle body yoga, we attend to these inner stirrings with reverence. The rhythm of your heart is a doorway to something vast.
Beautiful. So this is a direct transcript. This is me writing notes, direct transcript from T.S. Little, and I mentioned him to you before. He's really the subtle anatomy master. Like, I've been so fortunate to study with him. And you guys might remember I told you that he has a very beautiful subtle anatomy training on embodied philosophy, which is an app. Again, highly recommend. So these notes are directly, this is so T.S. Little. He's such a brilliant, he's a genius at bringing physical body and energy body together. It's his life's work. Like, you can see that he's just totally embodied it in his own body, and then he's teaching from that embodied wisdom. And I just love the way he does it. It's pure poetry. But anyway, I won't say anymore. What did you guys think?
Well, I'm glad you didn't say any more, Kate, because you pretty much just took the words out of my mouth. It's actually it's hilarious that you did go down that path. So I don't know whether it was random that we had ended up, you know, with this passage, and also straight after I guess I think everyone uses the term woo woo.
Give me 1 second, Matt. My daughter has just woken up and she wants water. I'm going to go to her, but I'm going to ask you to keep talking and I'll be back in 2 seconds, okay?
Okay. So, yeah, we kind of went down the path of relating it, like Katie was saying, relating it to ourselves, and that's the sort of the best way that I kind of see relating to students. And if I can sort of, you know, feel it in my own way, then I'm obviously gonna put it out there as well. And then what one way I do like to sort of take things like this is by finding the like kind of relating it to the scientific version, I suppose. Because and that's what I like about yoga. I see so many links between these, like this sort of 5,000-year-old practice and modern science. And I'm always seeing those links and saying, and this passage is kind of all about that. And so our approach was basically to yeah, to start with some breathing in the class in the first part of it, and just focus on the breathing, and then draw their attention to their heartbeat, to their rhythm, to their pulse, and let that sit with them for a while, and then sort of read the passage out, and sort of, yeah, after reading the passage out in full, or however much you choose to, then kind of just, you know, shortly discuss about the link and bring it back to that, yeah, that link to the modern science, and yeah, then sort of just ramp the music up and let that sit with them for the rest of the pose. I'm not sure if you heard that or not.
Beautiful. I love it. And, you know, the thing is with this teaching, it's like he's talking about the connection between breath and the pulse, right? But we can make connections with so many other areas of our physical anatomy and therefore then our energetic anatomy as well. For example, another connection that T.S. Little makes a lot is the connection between what's happening in the mind and what's happening with the breath, or what's happening in the mind and what's happening with the physical body. For example, when your mind is very busy and fast, we tend to move through the asana in a way that's very busy and fast. We rush, in other words. Once the mind begins to settle, the movement starts to settle. So all these, it's like connections, it's making the connections. And that's what he's the master of. And there's another one that is one of his, which we'll get to in a moment, which is feet, grounding, and geometry of being. And actually, in fact, diaphragm, jaw, and the whisper within. So the next three all come from him. And what another thing he does, which I love, is he brings in often other little cultural snippets. So in this one, he talks about the Christian mystics. You'll notice in one of the following ones, he talks about Japanese traditions. Like, he's very much a researcher, and he'll find like, oh, these people said this about the feet, or these people said this about the heartbeat. And so interesting how he weaves the stories together. And, you know, he was doing this actually before the internet existed. You know, I think he'd be in his late 60s now, probably early 70s. He still teaches. But he would have been researching this stuff like in old-fashioned libraries. So now we have ChatGPT. We can go, tell me all the things that different cultures say about the energy of the feet, or the connection between the heart and the breath. And you'll just get like more information than you can possibly process in a lifetime. And then you can sift through it and you can pick out the bits that feel relevant, interesting, connected to your theme. And you've got like so much information to work with. Do fact check chat GPT, because it's not always accurate, and sometimes it makes things up, like literally. I've done things before where I've said to it, for example, give me a quote about goddess Lakshmi that relates to blah blah blah, whatever theme I'm writing on, and then I've read it and I'm like, give me a Sanskrit quote, and I've read it and I've gone, never seen that before. That doesn't sound right. And then I'm like, is that, what scripture does that come from? And and it'll be like, oh no, that's a poetic interpretation. Like basically I made that up. And I'm like, no, 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 I don't want you to make stuff up. I want you to actually like resource me. So just yeah, FYI, if it doesn't have the information you're asking for, it will sometimes just make something up. So you don't want that. But I love this idea that we can draw from different cultures and kind of see the threads of how so many different traditions had similar ideas. There's something very reassuring in that, I think. Matt.
I, I always struggle with the words. Like, you know, you asked just before if anyone felt comfortable, I guess, talking about that particular one that was before us. I think the main reason I wouldn't feel comfortable is because I don't have I guess, the vocabulary to shift between my normal way of speaking, I suppose, and it's very kind of matter of fact, and then kind of going from that, and then yeah, just going back and forward, or even referencing or talking about how you would refer it. I don't know. Has that ever come up, or what?
Yeah, and I think it's really valid that you're saying that, because we want to teach from a place that, and again, this word authentic, overused word, but that feels authentic to us. So here's what I would do. This is what I would invite you to do, all of you, is take these extracts, read them, and ask yourself the question, what does this mean to me? How do I put this in my own words? Like if I had to rewrite this in a way that I would speak, what would I say? If I had to explain this to someone else without all the poetry and the, kind of highfalutin language, how would I explain it? And honestly, Matt, like if you just took that one extract that you guys just did, and you spent 15 minutes rewriting that into your own words, you would probably have a theme for a class that would be so solid that you'd feel so good about teaching. Because I think what I'm trying to say is it's not the correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to tell you who you are, but it's not the concepts that that are challenging. It's the language. And it's because we want to use language that sounds real for us. But that exploration of the idea that the heartbeat and the breath are connected, of course, right? And that you can feel that, and that's something you might experience when you get quiet enough to experience it. But yes, agreed, we definitely have to make the language our own, and also come up with our own examples. There's no point giving a bunch of examples that just feel like they don't relate to us and to our lives. But the more you contemplate this stuff, the more you'll notice in your everyday life examples come to you all the time. Like this afternoon, I was thinking, okay, well, I was thinking about this idea of saying to you guys, I really want you to make these teachings your own, and I want you to have the building blocks, but be able to create your own interpretation. And I came up with that spaghetti bolognese idea. I mean, it's nothing like particularly innovative, but like it was like, yeah, it's like a cooking recipe, because I never cook according to the recipe. I'm always like, oh, near enough's good enough, but I'm also going to throw in a bit of capsicum or, whatever. Like I'm just a sort of ad libber. And I think that's a really great way to think about teaching yoga. So yeah, like just contemplating these things as you go through your day, as you go through your life, and asking that question, how could I explain this? How could I share this? How could I translate it? And everyone will have their own flavor with that. Some of you will be more interested in, the anatomy and the physiology and the physical body. Some of you more interested perhaps in the breath. There's a number of people in this group who are breath workers. Some of you are more psychological, so you're more interested in the mind and the psychology. And if you have other modalities, like Emma might bring in her hypnotherapy, or, if you've got other things that you do, some of you do Reiki, why not bring those in? If you're a very visual person, help us to see, you know, paint a picture for us in the, and this was something else I wanted to mention this evening. You've also got in section 4 guided visualization and meditation scripts. Now, these are just some that I use, but you can totally curate and create your own and play with them, you know. I think the only thing that's really important, and this is exactly what Matt's pointing to, and I'm glad he brought this up because it does matter a lot, is that we're teaching from a place that feels real to us. Because even if you, like going back to what I was saying at the beginning, even if you have a bad class, right, and it doesn't go to plan and you feel like that wasn't great and whatever, it wasn't my best moment, as long as it was authentically you doing your best to represent what you're thinking about and what feels real for you, it's never a failure. It's just maybe a bit clunky and it didn't quite land and you didn't quite articulate yourself, and that's okay. But if you're talking about something you don't understand, or talking about something that you really have never experienced, or talking about something that you don't agree with or you don't relate to, that's, people will feel that. Like if you want to talk about pranamaya kosha, people can feel that, and that's inauthentic. That never lands. Even if you're very articulate and you're explaining it perfectly, if it's not in you. And this is why people like T.S. Little, I mean, the guy's a genius, because this is like truly his IP. This is his life's work, you know, through deep contemplation. I mean, this kind of, I don't want to go on about this too much, but it does tap into a bigger question I think I notice more and more, which is that many of us are so overloaded with other people's opinions about things that we actually aren't really sure what we think ourselves. And it's a real problem of the social media generation and just the internet generation. We've got so much information that we sometimes, I think, struggle to think about what is it that I actually think. And it goes back to that grace model from Elena Brower. Like, sometimes we really have to slow down and ask ourselves, what's the right thing for me to do here? Like, what actually feels right, you know, rather than all the voices and all the opinions and all the, you know. I mean, again, I think of parenting because it's the most immediate example for me. But like, when you have a baby, everyone has an opinion about what you should be doing. All the mums are nodding. And you have to filter through a whole bunch of other people's strong opinions and make your own decisions. And it's kind of like that with your yoga practice. Like, everyone's got their own, or every accomplished teacher, every teacher that's, you know, been around for a while and has an embodied practice, has their own particular unique lens through which they see the practice. And then we have to kind of do our own work of sifting through that and making it our own. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, good, good. I mean, it's taken me, you know, nearly 30 years of teaching and practice to even pull this restorative training together, because 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready to teach this. Like, I wasn't, it was still all forming in my mind, you know? So those of you who are newer teachers, that's okay. It's totally okay. Like, it's all still percolating. As long as you're doing the thinking and you're kind of, yeah, engaging with the material, it'll slowly over time, it unfolds. Okay, let's move on to the next T.S. Little offering, which is the diaphragm, the jaw, and the whisper within.
So that's myself and Lana.
Beautiful.
Lana, do you want to read it?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The diaphragm, the jaw, and the whisper within. Let your breath guide you. get out of your own way. Sit to the side and allow your breath to breathe you. The diaphragm and tongue are a subtle, synchronized pair. Softening through the jaw, the diaphragm becomes more elastic, facilitating the flow of prana. This connection is sacred. The diaphragm should not be struck against the liver. It must align with the spine to fully support the movement of life force. This is the work of abiding, of being in deep relationship with the pulse of life. As teacher T.S. Little reminds us, subtle body anatomy requires us to consider the fascia, the nervous system, and the flow of prana as one inseparable field. To abandon your physiology is to abandon yourself. Instead, shepherd yourself, your awareness back to any pulse you can feel. Stay with it. Stay with you. The pulse of life is God. Okay.
When we first read it, it's very deep, and it took us a little bit to get our mind around, and like we read 3 times to actually understand everything. We start thinking about actually getting the jaw relaxed, and but first relaxing the jaw. What would we say to them? We would say maybe focus on your breath and just feeling the breath on the tip of your nose, or giving awareness to the breath and then relaxing the jaw. And we even talk about maybe bringing a sort of a visualization of how the diaphragm works, like in the inhale downwards and exhale upwards. And I remember someone once give me this visualization about that, like it wasn't a balloon, and then maybe understanding how this muscle works, and we would continue to the life force and connecting it with energy, because it's already complex to understand how this breath comes in and out and what is happening in our physical body. So I think step by step. What do you think, Lana? Anything else that we discussed?
Yeah, just that second part was slightly complex for my brain at the moment to process. But yeah, we would just sit, as we discussed, we would sit in comfortable position with a straight spine, and start bringing the awareness to the breath, to the jaw, trying to relax it and explaining the connection in between the diaphragm and the tongue. And what else did I write here? And just explain that the breathing with the diaphragm, how it was just gently, just briefly, but clearly to people to understand. And yeah, that's all I've got written down that I wanted to add.
Beautiful. Good job, guys. Really good job.
Thank
And I think, as Trani says, there's like 5 different things here that could each be a theme of a class on their own. Like, it's very dense. There's a lot in here. So we wouldn't necessarily, we're not T.S. Little. We wouldn't necessarily have all of this happening in one class because it's very rich. I think one beautiful theme that he touches on here is what in Sanskrit is called sakshi. Sakshi, I'll write it in the chat, S-A-K-S-H-I, is the ability to witness yourself, the self-witness. So where he says, sit to the side and allow the breath to breathe you. This is like, stop trying to be in control of everything and instead notice your mind thinking, notice your breath breathing, notice your heart beating. It's a very important concept in Sanskrit that we don't really have a we don't have English words for this, sakshi, the ability to self-witness. And then again, he says it, where is it? To abandon your physiology is to abandon yourself. So it's like this idea that we are intimately connected to the body, but also able to witness it at the same time. It's like a double, almost a contradiction, but not. So that's one theme, this idea of self-witnessing. Another theme I think is beautiful here is the pulse of life as a kind of way of describing prana. Because we talk about prana as life force, right? But that word force is interesting. It implies forcing, like power, something very dynamic, whereas the pulse feels much more sort of gentle or rhythmical or very different to force. And that always makes me think about craniosacral, you know, when, I don't know if you ever had a craniosacral treatment or you know anything about that, but that's a lot to do with pulsation and the idea of this, the spinal fluid is in pulsation. And then we've also got the lymphatic system, which is really connected to our immunity. And the lymphatic system has no pulse of its own. It's dependent on the heartbeat, the blood circulation to pulse. When we get stuck lymph, that's often happens to people who are very sedentary, like elderly people or people who have a disability that can't move their bodies. The lymphatic system can actually get really stagnant and then they can get sick because it's directly connected to immunity, which is massage can be really helpful for people who are very sedentary because it keeps the lymphatic system. So we've got this pulsation of the breath, the pulsation of life, and then the nervous system, the flow of prana. And I would also add into that the idea of the lymphatic system as well. It's this beautiful connection between the subtle and the physical. And then, of course, which you guys talked about beautifully, the idea of the connection between the tongue and the diaphragm and the jaw. Many, many people, most people, just like most people are really tired. Like most people are really tired. You guys need to know this as yoga teachers. People are exhausted. Many people have a lot of tension through the jaw, base of the skull. Like if we're not grinding our teeth when we're sleeping, we're clenching our jaw when we're awake. Like very high tension area in the body. So an instruction I like to give a lot when I'm teaching is relax your jaw. Relax your jaw, let your tongue be soft in your mouth. Because especially for beginners, when they're applying effort, they're trying to do things right, like they're trying to do the sun salute and it requires concentration and effort, you'll notice a lot of jaw clenching happens. Any questions about that extract?
I just wanted to add, when Lana was reading that out, I was like, oh, softening the jaw. And I was like, oh, I sat up a little more, you know. So even those words are so, yeah, you're automatically just getting into your body really quickly. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And like I just said, you don't have to use the whole thing. It's a lot. It's really dense. Pull one thread of an idea out, one little sutra, one little thread, and run with that, you know. And don't be afraid to repeat yourself. If you're talking about relax the jaw, maybe you give that instruction 5 times in a class, right? Because, oh, look, I've clenched up my jaw again. You know, we don't just give the instruction once. People lice. She's going, I'm releasing her jaw. People need reminding. We go back to our habitual way, our habitual pattern. You know, we need to be told again and again and again, relax your shoulders, relax your shoulders. I took my little 9-year-old to the chiropractor yesterday because he's had a stiff neck, and the chiropractor was adjusting him and massaging him. It was ticklish for him. He's only 9, so he was kind of a bit awkward. But I must have told him in there 10 times to relax his shoulders. He'd relax his shoulders and then the chiropractor would do something and then he'd be like this again. And I'm like, Max, relax your shoulders. And he'd drop them down. 30 seconds later. I'm just like, I had to tell him so many times. His habit was just because he was a little bit unsure about the whole thing. We go back to our habitual patterns. So we have to be reminded. And I think as teachers, we feel bad about repeating ourselves because we think, oh, I'm saying it again. I'm saying it again. Say it 1,000 times. It's okay. People need reminding. Okay, I think, are we on the last group now? Raise your hand if you haven't had your, yeah, oh no, we've got 2 more to go. Okay, so let's do Emily's group and then we'll do, I think, Emma's group. I've lost my thread now.
Kim and
Emily.
I in the same group.
that's right.
Kim, I've got some idea actually to discuss about. Would you mind reading or?
No, I don't mind at all. Yeah, I
you?
got more ideas and thoughts going along as well.
Okay, great. Yep.
I just wanted to say something about the last group's reading, actually, because something really weird happened with me. I was talking to my mum about something, and she always says, switch off, move out of your own way, your cells know what to do. And she said that to me about a week ago. And the very next day, I read page 15, where it says, get out of your own way. And I said, oh, it was just bizarre because I was like, I felt like I had that real mother, the womb, daughter, mother-daughter connection, where she understood exactly what I was learning about, and I hadn't even told her anything yet. It was really weird. Like
Your mum sounds like she's really awesome.
She's very good at manifesting things. She's a very powerful manifester. She doesn't even
bought us a
realize.
Mimi pillow, so I mean,
yeah, that's right. I told her about that. She's known for that. Yeah.
restorative yoga famous.
So when the repetition, so I discussed it with her, wrote it down, and then the very next day I rang her and said, "Guess what, Mum? It's in my workbook. It's almost verbatim what you said." So I was really excited about that. But anyway, I'm going to read about feet, grounding, and the geometry of being, and then Emily can talk briefly on it. Okay, the feet are the foundation of the temple of the body. When we place our feet with awareness along the midline, we align the Sushumna Nadi and orient ourselves toward the central axis. This placement grounds the entire nervous system, supporting stability and attunement. In many traditions, Japanese and beyond, the feet are considered sacred. Reflexology and yogic texts alike point to their role in full body balance. Their placement, their feeling, their presence, it's holy. That made me straight away think of the Christian tradition, the washing of the feet with Jesus, and even more recently the Pope who passed away. Actually, I saw images of him washing prisoners' feet, and that sort of represents how special the feet are in a Christian tradition, and also obviously the maps on the feet for reflexology, every single part of the body's on there, and there's evidence based there that it helps people. And the last paragraph was a little deep at first, the geometry of being, but now I sort of really think I understand. I can understand it. Attuning to the subtle body begins here through aesthetic appreciation, beauty, art, even feeling or holding a pet, tuning into a loved one's presence. We refine our ability to sense subtle vibration. We awaken a deeper sensitivity to the whisper of our own breath, our biorhythm, and the energetic shifts that guide us inwards. And that then made me think of the beauty of nature and how much I appreciate watching the trees out the front of my house. And I have 2 dogs, and the energy that they give me and sometimes they give it to me when I don't even know I need it. I've got one of my dogs that will come to you 5 minutes before you're going to be upset. Like, they know when a storm's coming, and he'll come and put his head on my heart, and before I even know that anything's going on with me. So they're
Have you
very.
heard about those dogs that can tell for epileptic people if they're going to have a fit. Have you heard
Yeah.
of that?
Well, he's sort of like that, but he knows if you're going to get
Yeah.
upset about something.
Incredible. Like they've
Yeah, it
got
is.
a sixth sense and this other layer of perception that we just don't have. Yeah,
They're
amazing.
amazing. Yeah. And they sense if you're, you're a bit hyped up. If I've had too many coffees and I'm a bit, worried about things, they pick up on that energy, that subtle, or it's not subtle sometimes. They pick up on it. Yeah, Emily, do you want to say a couple of things?
Yeah.
Add to what we discussed, or?
Yeah. We talked about we're gonna mention the feet are not just physical part of the body, not just the anchorage, but also the energy gateway of our body, especially through the central axis. And also, yeah, as Tim mentioned, the reflexology also is part of, mentioning about, especially I think to me, my understanding is through traditional Chinese medicine, is the feet got lots of pressure points. And then massaging feet is very general practice in Asia in general. And also, so through the pressure points, it corresponds with different organs and systems of our body. So that really stimulates the energy. In traditional Chinese medicine called it qi. So which is, it's basically the same thing. It's healing to our body. And also when Katie just mentioned about visualization, I've got this spark of ideas as to incorporate this in the restorative yoga classes. Also, I like to probably just get the students to imagine walking bare feet on various surfaces like sand, falling leaves, rocks, wooden floors and various, and in, for example, more warm temperature, kind of just get them to visualize it and sense that type of energy in their body. And that's something like that. I think that would be very
I love
interesting
that.
to this.
That
So
reminds me a little bit of the yoga nidra, very traditional yoga nidra, where we do like imagine being hot, imagine being cold, and then we do different visualizations. But it's more of the trouble with yoga nidra is, like I said before, everyone's tired. So half the time people don't listen to what's going on because they've nodded off. Whereas if you did it in Tadasana, that similar type of visualization, or it's not even, it's like a full body visualization, like a sensory visualization. I love that. I love that.
I feel like that would be very interesting. That would probably create some sort of effect to people and to students, and how they feel like that.
Yeah, beautiful. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, like thinking about your own way of like interpreting these teachings and offering them. Thank you. The other thing that's nice to explore with Tadasana is this idea of symmetry and asymmetry, which is something that we come up against a lot in restorative yoga. And one of the things I really want the students and you in your own body, if you're not teaching as well, like regardless of whether you're teaching or not, is to start to get to know your body in the sense that it's not symmetrical. So really noticing, oh, my left hip is more open than my right, or my left foot turns out, but my right foot doesn't, or like really getting to know the subtlety of where your body is symmetrical, but also where it isn't, and what that means for your energy and the sort of the internal map that you have about your body. And then the other thing that came up for me, which I hadn't thought about before reading this actually, but it kind of, or teaching classes around this, but it kind of, I got the download today, is this idea of, the feeling of holding a pet or tuning into a loved one's presence, which T.S. describes as beauty or art. But there's also the other side to that, which is the honoring of not a not positive feeling, and we've talked about this previously in our sessions. And I think I feel that particularly for women, this is something we're bad at. Like we override our sense of, I feel that my space is being invaded, or I feel uncomfortable, or I just feel I'll use the word violated. It sounds like a really strong word, but energetically violated, like someone is in my space that I don't want to be there. And I really feel that part of honoring the subtle body and being able to really tap into the subtle body is honoring that, not overriding that. Even, you know, it could even be with someone that you really love. Like, it's not necessarily that you don't like the person. Like, again, young children, and I know that those of you who are mums are going to know about this, is when you have very young children, they're on your body all the time. And there comes times in the day and in your life where you just need to be in your own space. And you're like, I don't want to be touched anymore. Like, get off me. That's a very real thing for mothers. It doesn't mean you don't love your kid and you don't want to cuddle your kid, but it just means at certain times it's like, too much, give me some space. Or, you know, maybe you've got a partner that you really love and, you know, are happy to be with, but you have a big argument. You don't want to sleep in the bed next to them, right? There's that feeling of like, I don't want this energy, like I don't want to be in your energy right now. So that taps into that. And I think I do feel that for us as women and men, I'm sure, but I don't know. I feel like it's sort of part of that consent piece. It's like honoring when we really feel like, actually, I want my own space. I need my own space, and not always being available to have that kind of invaded. Does anyone have any thoughts about that? You may disagree with me.
I actually really like it. I feel like that I need more practice. Yeah, in definitely in that area, just getting comfortable for in that not so comfortable situation. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Any thoughts around that? Kim, did you want to say something?
Right. I'm just laughing because I wrote down, I don't want to be in your energy right now, and just thought about, you know, it's who would like to say that to sometimes. And whether that being direct sometimes is a good thing. Like actually being honest about, I just can't be in your energy right now, rather than just thinking it. There is a time to be blunt and say it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me that. I know it can be
Yeah.
rude, but, you know, some people
Yeah.
need to be
And
told.
even if we don't say, I mean, I'm not saying don't say it, but by all means, go ahead and say it. But even if we don't say it, just allowing ourselves to notice that we're feeling it, because I think so often we just override it. We go, oh, I'm being silly, or, you know, they haven't done anything wrong. Like we gaslight ourselves. We turn it into there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's okay for us to honor what we're feeling, you know,
But
like the
I
vibe
just
that
wrote
we're
that
feeling.
down. Honor what you're feeling, and own it. And if you can have someone who you can share that with and be honest with, then that's a good relationship, whether it's familiar or intimate. You know,
Absolutely.
I was thinking about my mother at the time, but it could be my partner, it could be my sister, it could be anyone, because everybody's got little, you know, your kids, they've all got little idiosyncrasies that you know, they all have bad days. You don't want to be around them, especially you've got teenage boys, haven't you? They've got probably different moods all the time, every hour. No comment.
Yes. Yes. Like a roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Yeah. Rosie.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when I was reading that, I was thinking also, could it be another perspective, like when someone is in the way, what's it stopping you from, you know, that energetic inwardness, you know, the energy when you need the space, but you can't get the space, or when you just kind of accept that, oh, you know, I'll just accept that someone's in my way and I don't feel like I've got, you know, like my throat chakra is holding me back from saying this. What's it stopping me from that? Yeah, that shift going inward and actually being able to feel and experience those things, that it's a block, almost another block, I guess, energy block?
I think it's a really interesting question, and I think for each one of us, it often comes from different things. A lot of it can be social conditioning, depending on how you were raised and the culture that you were raised in. It can definitely be social conditioning, and that often is very cultural. I really do notice that. It can also be familial, like your family. Some families are very tactile, some aren't, some are very honest and open in their communication, some aren't. That can kind of be a whole thing as well. And then some of it's just personality. Some of us feel much more comfortable speaking up around our personal boundaries and our energy and what we're okay with and what we're not. And some of us just find it much harder and feel much more sensitive and yeah. And then throw in a bit of people pleasing as well, like not wanting to upset people and wanting to, it's like, yeah, so much. Yeah. I mean, there's so much we could say about that, but I feel that this conversation is very, very relevant to our yoga practice and our yoga teaching, because yoga is a physical embodiment of energy. We're working with prana, we're working with energy, and so much of our energy speaks around, and I'm using the word consent. It's not really quite the right word, but I don't have a better word, around what we allow people access to or not. Like how much access do we allow people to have? And so much of that happens on an energetic level. And we're constantly interacting with other people in that way too. I mean, you can feel when someone is not, for example, when someone is not available for a conversation, right? You go to talk to them and they're not up for it. You can feel that immediately. You can also feel when someone wants to drain your energy, right? How many times have you started a conversation and then in your own head you're like, oh my goodness, okay, this is already exhausting. How am I going to manage this? Right? Like you can feel it. So these things are happening all the time, and it's sort of like a bit of a double-edged sword, because the more we sensitize to it in ourselves, the more we sensitize to it externally, and then we can become highly sensitive. So with that sensitivity, we also need to get better at boundaries. But I don't think, in order to have a boundary, I think this is helpful, we don't necessarily always need to say it. Saying it can be helpful, but saying it is one piece. It's not necessarily, because actually saying it can sometimes cause more confrontation than we need. There are so many different ways to say it. Yeah. But the first step before we get to any of that is just allowing ourselves to feel it and to notice, oh, I feel uncomfortable. Like I need a bit more space here, or this is awkward, or, that we actually don't make it about us and go, I'm wrong because I'm feeling this way. And for those of us who have young people in our lives, that we teach them that autonomy as well. I think one of the most valuable things is that we can teach our kids to have that languaging around whether or not they want to be touched, and where and how, and who they want in their space. And like, what a beautiful gift to give our children, that they can speak up about that stuff, and that they don't feel that they have to be polite or manage someone else's emotions around that. It's such a foundational piece around the autonomy of our own prana. And it's just not something that we're taught. It's getting better. It's getting better. I mean, God, when I was a kid, it was so much of like, hug Auntie Lucy, kiss Uncle Jimmy, like all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't want to, but you kind of had to, like we don't, like that doesn't happen anymore. And I think that's really, really a good thing. Okay, have we got one last group? Emma?
I think there might be one more before us.
Who hasn't had a turn yet? I think you're the last.
Are we? Okay.
Also,
So
maybe we skip one.
did we skip one? Who did Stula?
Are you somatic wisdom,
Oh,
rhythmic
yes.
intelligence?
Yes.
Yes, we skipped Stula and Shukshma
Oh.
only because that's a repetition of the 5 koshas, and we've already covered it in quite a lot of detail. So sorry, I should have said that. I just skipped that one because it's something we've already covered quite a bit.
Okay. Oh, do you want me to read it, Lace?
Yeah, go for it.
We had to read it a few times as well and look up a word. There is a rhythmic intelligence to prana. Eating too early in the morning may disrupt it. Blood sugar affects it. Bowel rhythm and peristalsis impact it. These cycles are not just physical, they are energetic. They teach us to listen deeply to our own timing, to the language of the subtle body. Yoga teaches us that singular mind, singular heart is both a practice and a promise. What does this feel like? How does it manifest? To live in rhythm with ourselves is to live in rhythm with our lives, with life. So yeah, we took us a little while to absorb this. I don't know if my brain wasn't working 100%, but we thought that, you know, it's about listening to your body and the natural timings of things, and also thinking about the impact that what we eat and consume, how it affects our mood and our energy levels. And the word peristalsis
It's the movement of the colon, basically, the movement of food through the body.
Yeah. And we're talking about how when you're actually eating a nice, healthy, light kind of diet, and then you have something heavy, something different, you actually can feel that going through your system. Like you can feel it quite vividly, I suppose. Yeah, not sure what else to say. Lace, did you want to say something?
No, just to add more about what you said. When the body gives us the sign, the results for us is to listen. So the same is with the energy. But then we didn't get it further because we didn't understand what the singular mind and singular heart means, Katie.
Yeah, it's a reference to yogic scripture. And basically what is being said is that the project of yoga is union, right? We talked about this on the first day. So we're unifying the different parts of ourselves. So we could talk about the koshas. We're unifying physical body, energy body, mind, emotions, spirit, soul, right?
Yeah.
Yoga with a big Y is the unification of self with God, the divine source. Another way of thinking about this unifying, this yoga, this connecting, this yoking, is the different, and this is very much T.S. Little's teachings, the different pulsations through the body, the pulsation of the prana, the heartbeat, the rhythm of the breath, the peristalsis, the pulsation of food as it moves through the body, the lymphatic system, on and on, all these different currents and pulsations and impulses, the electrical pulsation through the nervous system. Have you ever felt anxious and you're sitting still, sedentary, not moving the body, but your heart is beating 1,000 beats a second, you know, like it's exploding, right? This is the rhythm is out, right? The rhythm of where the physical body's at, the rhythm of the mental body, there's a disconnect there. I mean, if that gets bad enough, it becomes a panic attack. You can literally feel like you're dying. So we're interested in this yoga, this yoking, this unification of the different pulsations of the body, the different rhythms, not just physical. I mean, yes, physical, but also the energy body too. And it's very true that physical changes in our body impact the energy and the emotions. I mean, especially again as women, like our hormones cycle throughout the month. So there are times when there's more energy, less energy, emotions are changing, ability to focus is changing. So many different things. Even just as simple as if you're constipated, that has a biofeedback in the body, right? If you've ever had a colonic or an enema, you know that feeling of lightness and emptiness, it's very energizing. So, or even after you just had food poisoning, you know, when you're really empty after you've just had food poisoning, you feel a kind of lightness. It's a very different energy to I've just eaten a big heavy meal. So all of these things, we're trying to find the oneness, find the place where we feel like whole, cohesive. There's not parts of us arguing with other parts. Like I'm sitting here still and relaxed, but my heart's beating out of my chest. That's like your body's in an argument with itself. We're trying to stabilize. And, you know, the truth is when we start doing practices like restorative yoga, very often it's when we notice the disconnects more. So, I mean, I've said this to you guys before, but it's really worth remembering. Oftentimes when we first come to these practices, it's the same with meditation. We have a hard time. Like meditation is really hard because you just sit there and you notice your mind. And it's hard, especially these days because we're so conditioned to be distracted all the time. Just to sit and be still and do nothing, it's almost impossible for us. It's quite worrying. So similarly with the body, you know, there might be pain, there might be discomfort, there might be all kinds of things going on that you don't really notice because you're just busy going through your life. But when you slow down and you look, you're like, oh, you know what? My hip's really not good. Or, you know, I got a lot of tension in my jaw, or I have a headache, or whatever it might be. And then hopefully we work through that and we come out another place where we feel really good. And we start to notice, I feel good. I feel integrated. I feel whole. I feel well, you know? But that's a process often, and it's counterculture. The culture that we live in is not designed to have us walk around feeling well, unfortunately. We have to work quite hard at it, I think. Any final thoughts, comments, questions from today's session? Anything anyone wants to share or ask? Plenty of food for thought.
Katie, it's slowly piecing together lots of things for me. I'm reflecting a lot in going back to when I had like adrenal fatigue and burnout, and all of these things that we're discussing are making sense in terms of, and I hope I can certainly help other people. I think I said in the first day that I stumbled upon restorative on YouTube and it was the only thing that nourished me. But it's demonstrating to me that there are so many little pieces in our body that talk to the nervous system. And if it's not right, there's all of these things that come off it, which we just can't put together in day-to-day life because there's too much other information. So just to get people to be able to come to a class, get back in their body, get in their heart and be anchored is such a beautiful thing. And it's needed so much more now than ever is what I hear and feel from what we're learning here.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Brilliant. What she said, that. That's it. That's exactly it. That's exactly the project. You just said it perfectly. And you said it in a way that most people would really understand. Like you just, yeah, really nailed it. Thank you, Jo. Really beautiful.
That's okay, thank you. But the hardest part I'm finding is that I'm seeing it. I'm a witness to it in other people because I'm learning it, and I learned it about myself. I'm witnessing it in so many other people, and I'm sad for them that they can't see. But that's my journey to learn about. That's in their incarnation.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all need to bring it down a little bit, I think.
Yeah. And at the very least, we can't take on the project of everybody because it's just
No.
too much. But the very least, the people that we're close to and the people that we love that are in our lives that we can,
Guide.
yes, try to reach
Not
out to,
lead,
try to
guide.
connect, try
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
the conversations. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Beautiful. Twani.
Um, uh, More like a technical question. I was just wondering, is there like something when we choose the theme, is there like something that we should not forget to mention? Like if we go into the asana, should I always talk the benefit of the physical body, or should I just choose any scripture and just develop the theme on the scripture and just develop the theme and perhaps not talk about the physical body or the physical benefits of that asana? Is there, or there's something like, oh yes, you should always cover this or that?
I think the only thing that we need to always make sure we cover is that the practice is safe and people aren't going to get injured or hurt in any way. That's the only thing that has to always happen, you know? If you see someone doing something that is going to lead to an injury, which in restorative is really rare, but it could happen. It's more likely to happen in a vinyasa or, you know, that type of class. Other than that, I've said this to you guys before, but the way I think about teaching is, okay, great if I get someone for one session or two sessions, but really what we want to do is cultivate long-term relationships with our students and be in a process of education with them so that over time they hear us talking about different things in different ways. And sometimes it might be more focused on physical body. Sometimes it might be more focused on energy. Sometimes it might be more focused on alignment. But over time, they're going to get a good broad spectrum. So the answer to your question is in one individual class, no. Over a period of time, I do think as teachers, we have an obligation to make sure that we are educating our students. We're giving them tools. We're not just, you know, rehashing the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. Anyone else? It gives us a lot of freedom teaching restorative yoga because there's a lot of spaciousness and it's such a gift. You know, there's so few, even in other types of yoga, there's so few opportunities for us to have that amount of spaciousness to explore something and to talk about it and to kind of go deeper. Yeah, I think it's really lovely.
Katie, I've just thought about one thing. As restorative yoga, we've got certain amount of postures to blend in all the different themes that we mentioned or we were talking about. I'm just trying to understand, how do we blend into different themes?
You don't try to, like, this is like what I'm giving you, even what we've covered tonight could be like 6 months worth of teaching. You'd never try to do it all in one class, like not in a million years. People would just be completely like, what the hell was that? Pick one thing or two things, you know? I mean, I talked to you guys about this in teacher training with theming. It's so much better that you do one or two things clearly and the students can come out of the class and they can go, yeah, that class was about ahimsa non-violence. That was the theme. Or that class was about relax your jaw. Or that class was about the positioning of your pelvis, right? And that was it. Like one thing, and then they learn that, and then we do something else next time, and maybe we come back and you know, like, but like less is more, less is more. I mean, I'm giving you so much because I want to give you a lot of food for thought, and I want to give you all the tools, and I also I don't necessarily think that all of you will like all of it. There'll be bits you draw on that really resonate for you. But please don't go and try and teach all of this like in one go to your students, because they'll just have a brain explosion. Like choose one thing, two things, that's it.
Yeah, no, what I'm also trying to understand is if I choose one thing, and how do I pick? Like, is it certain rules of picking the poses for a thing, or
How do you connect the sequencing of the postures with the thing? In restorative, that is less important than in other forms like vinyasa, for example. There are loosely sometimes things that would be important. For example, if you were teaching about heart chakra, you might do a bit more back bending. If you were teaching about drawing energy inward, you might do a bit more forward bending. But we've got a very limited repertoire in true, proper restorative yoga. I mean, yes, you can add in free movement at the beginning, at the end. You can add in a yin bit here and there if you know that. Like you can be flexible, but if we're really going to be like properly doing pure restorative, you don't have a lot. It's not like, it's quite repetitive in terms of the physical stuff, which is what gives you the freedom with the theming to talk about so many different things. But you're going to come back to that sequencing that's at the beginning of your workbook, and you're probably going to follow that. I mean, I do. I've been teaching restorative for years and practicing it for years. I just follow that format pretty much. Like it's not a lot of variety. What does change over time is the types of props you use, where and how, because your body's always changing. But no, we're not creating a sequence to fit the theme so much like we would be in a vinyasa practice. No.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Matt.
Sorry, what did you say does change over time? I just missed that.
The way that what your props and how you're doing each posture will look.
Okay.
You know, like you might use 3 blocks in Supta Baddha Konasana, and then over time you only need 1, or you get injured and then you need 4. You know, it's like that varies. And from student to student, that will vary a lot. But the posture itself doesn't vary so much. I mean, if you're teaching restorative yoga really well, when you look around the room, there should be quite a lot of variety in terms of how much props people are using and what they're doing with them. And you know that from the workshopping sessions that we've done. You know, some people hardly need anything. Other people have got like an entire truckload of props, and it's still not enough. And that varies from pose to pose. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Enjoy. Lives. Yeah.
Sorry. Very quickly, the idea that I have in my mind about after doing vinyasa is very gradually. Like I don't know if I'm limiting myself or limiting the idea of my public, because, for example, the teachers who I work with, the educators in a childcare, they don't have a clue what's going on in restorative. And just telling them that they can like relax for 1 hour, their eyes shine. So for me, seeing these signs, my theme, like if I gonna go in a class, would be relaxation and as you said, relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, relax your body, and I will never gonna say something at the beginning for these people about the subtle energy, because they're not gonna get at all. This is what I'm understanding from when I speak with other people about it. Not us as a community, because we have an idea, but the people outside there, no. It
I
is
want to give
very
you
shocking.
I want to give you 2 different perspectives on that. I understand exactly what you're saying. First perspective is you're right, because people are very disconnected, very dissociated from their bodies, living from the neck up. We're all on these little screens all the time. We're just not in relationship with our bodies. You are absolutely right. And also, at the same time, let's not underestimate people, Because maybe you give them something that seems a bit wacky and weird and they're not going to get it, and actually they do. Or one person does and it's completely life-changing for them. So I think any time in my teaching career where I have held back because I don't think people are ready or they're not going to get it, usually it's been a mistake. And also, you don't want to go bananas and be like waffling on about, you know, the liver and the diaphragm and the subtle pulsation, and they're just like, what's going on? Like, what is going on? Yeah, yeah. So middle ground, find your place, but don't go so far and decide they're not ready, they're not ready, they're not ready, that you don't give them anything, and then you're not giving them the chance to ever be ready. People can surprise you. I know I'm sort of saying two contradictory things, but that's because two contradictory things are actually true at the same time.
No, I got it. I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, none of us here would have ever come to these teachings if someone hadn't been brave enough at some point to teach us, right? So, yeah. And part of it too is don't worry too much about being popular. People don't like it, they'll go somewhere else. You can be the wacky weirdo that says the wacky things, and the people that love that will come to you, and the people that don't will go to the person that doesn't say the wacky things, and that's completely fine. I can tell you right now, there's more people that are looking for wacky than not, because there's plenty of mainstream stuff going on out there.
I'm writing that down, Katie. Like, funnily enough, I'm already the wacky weirdo in every other way. So why not just add this?
Why not be the wacky weirdo? Why not own it? Like, yeah. The world needs more eccentricity. I really actually do believe that the world needs more eccentricity. Like, we need to celebrate being eccentric more. Why not? In ourselves and in others. I'll leave you on that note. Go forth and be eccentric. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your time and your attention.